Hi, welcome to This Expat Life. My name is Amanda Maxime, and as a certified coach, I help high-achieving expats find more fulfillment and happiness in their global lives. Because while life abroad is often amazing, it is not only rainbows and butterflies, as all experienced expats know. In This Expat Life, I open up space for all facets of life abroad and what you can do to thrive in it. And to support you in your personal, professional, and geographic life transitions, I share tips, tell relatable stories, and connect with fellow expats. Whether you've just moved abroad or you are a seasoned expat, This Expat Life is your place to find real understanding and to grow from the inside out. Enjoy the show. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of This Expat Life. And boy, it's been a minute, hasn't it? I think the last time that I recorded and published an episode was the beginning of February, mid-February perhaps. And we are now mid-March. And I find myself back in The Hague, back in my apartment. If you're watching this on YouTube, you are seeing a very familiar background because this is my living room where I always record almost all of my videos. I got my cat Bobby somewhere chilling behind me. He is lying somewhere in the sun. He loves being in the sun. He's such a Brazilian cat. And my other cat, Fenton, is somewhere out and about, probably socializing with the people, mostly women, of one of his other 5 homes that he has in this neighborhood. So things are back to normal for me, although that may seem on the surface. I'm going to share more about that later on. But I have returned from my 3-month vacation after spending some time in Arizona, El Salvador, and Mexico City. I now find myself back in The Hague, but I'm back here to close a chapter, something I shared more about already in a previous episode. And I'm feeling good. A lot of people are asking me, let me just give a quick personal update first before I dive into today's topic. A lot of people are asking me how I'm doing, how it feels to be back in The Hague, and I'm feeling mostly good. Emotionally, I'm good. Mentally, I'm good. Just physically, I'm struggling this week. I normally, jet lag doesn't really have a hold on me every time I fly back from the Americas to the Netherlands because I nailed that jet lag after being a diplomat in Brazil and having to fly back pretty often. But I kind of underestimated the adjustment or the processing that your body needs to do when you're not just flying home from one country to another, but you are coming home after a 3-month trip, or you're coming home to close a chapter, or, it's not just a change of environments. It's, I spent a lot of time in one environment, let's say 2 months of Mexico, and now I'm back here. And it's not the usual quick adjustment period that I have when I come back home after 1 or 2 weeks in the Americas. And I kind of forgot about that part. So if you are an expat, global citizen, you are just moving countries, or you are going on a big trip. One of my friends, she also recently quit her job and she's going on a trip now. And she also said to me yesterday, I'm just so tired. So, our bodies do need to process things that are going on for us. And it's not just only the physical body adjustment from jet lag, it's other things that are happening as well. For me, they're also showing up in very, very vivid dreams. Some of them which were quite good actually, because they really showed me something. But that is always my cue, I'm processing more than I'm realizing. So let me try and create some space for that. So to answer that question, yes, I'm doing fine. Just this first week I'm trying to adjust. I'm living in a sort of sweatshop at the moment because I decided to wash everything, all the clothes that I have that were also in storage, just because I like fresh clothes. And so, things aren't fully into place yet because I put a lot away, but we're slowly coming back to it. And for the question of how is it to be back home again? Well, that comes with mixed feelings. So usually when I was abroad in the US or sometimes elsewhere, and I would go home with a lot of dread. This is also one of the reasons why I decided to leave The Hague. And I didn't really enjoy being back home that much. That has changed somewhat because I'm back home now knowing that I'm going to leave this place. And if you're curious about that, I think in the episode about my 3 goals, I share my decision to leave The Hague. So if you want to know more about the reason why, I suggest you listen to that episode. And so I feel a lot lighter coming back here. I'm also enjoying some parts of being back home because, well, some parts are just really nice about my apartment, about my neighborhood, about my city, about my country. You know, I got my cats. I love my kitchen. It's so good to have like really good kitchen appliances again because I didn't have that in Airbnbs. I love wearing all my clothes again, not just the clothes I had from that one suitcase for 3 months. It is nice that things are very quiet here. You know, there's some good parts about being back home for sure. And because I know that I'm leaving, I am also realizing, I might not experience it this way again for the foreseeable future. And so I am really soaking it all in, even the things that I do not always like or that I'm more neutral about. So that part is good. But then there's also the part of, you know, the things that have bugged me for a long time. They still bug me, like living in front of this primary school that, you know, makes a lot of noise. You know about this. And I'm also realizing, my neighborhood, every time I go outside, all I see is like older couples or people with kids, so families. And I'm just realizing that is not the environment that I thrive in. That was one of my reasons to leave The Hague, and this apartment particularly. And so seeing that again is still like, but now I know I'm going to leave it, so I'm okay about it. There are more mixed emotions in the game because when I came back and I got to my apartment for the first time and I got to my storage and I found all my stuff and I had my cats, I realized, I'm going to give this all up. And that felt a bit heavy. It felt a bit like, do I really want to do this? Am I really sure of my decision? Yes, I am, which I'm going to share at the end of the episode. But it kind of came with this like awareness all of a sudden, like, this is the price I'm paying because I'm going to let this go. I'm going to give this up. And, you know, that's also part of it. So I shared something about this on Instagram. It is and. There are lots of really good things going on in my life. I am hosting a network event in a couple of days at the time of recording. I will be on national television for this interview that I recorded last summer, which I'm very, very nervous about, by the way. I'm not nervous, but just like, a little like it's exciting and a bit like scary at the same time because I've never been on TV so far. I've got things planned with my friends. I got some trips planned. I got a VIP weekend planned with one of my very long-term and one of my favorite clients. So these are all things I'm very, very looking forward to. And there is this decision and the consequences. I am excited about it and I know what I'm giving up. So there's all kinds of mixed emotions going on, but I'm really here for accepting of what is going on for you instead of pushing things away. So I have been making space for that. So that is just a quick update from my side. What I want to talk about today is a bit related because I want to talk about when a decision stops weighing on you. I want to speak about that part when that happens. Because so many expats, global citizens, people with a life between countries spend a lot of time in the, as I call it, expat waiting room. The expat waiting room is the place where you at some point enter that waiting room without realizing it. And you become aware of it at a point in your life where you're like, okay, yeah, this isn't bad, but I know this isn't where I want to be long term. Like I know at some point I want to leave. And this can be geographical, like your location. It can be professional, your career or job or company. It can be relational, about a certain relationship that you're in or not in. If you're single, you might also not want to be single for the rest of your life. And so the expat waiting room encompasses more things than just a geographical part of your life. But you are there when you are, I'm pretty comfortable. Life here, for sure isn't bad. I'm grateful for what I have and I live a privileged life and I'm comfortable enough. But I know that long term, this is not my place. Long term, this isn't comfortable. But because in the short term, you are okay where you are now, you're kind of waiting for something to change, for clarity to hit, for an opportunity to come up. And you tell yourself, that's when I'll move. That's when I'll make a change. That's when I'll make a decision. And a lot of people who are inside the room, some of them genuinely don't know what is right for them. What might be the right direction, the right next step, the right move, the right decision. Because they have so many options and they really cannot access the part of them that already knows what is right for them for now. And so they are just like, I just really don't know what other door to open. So let me just stay here. For some people inside the expat waiting room, they kind of do know what they want. I speak to a lot of people inside the co-pilot, sometimes one-on-one, where they initially come to me and they say, I don't know what I want. Like, I've got several options. And then when we start talking and I ask them, some good questions, they're like, actually, I do know what I want. And it's just fear that is really blocking them. Or they can't see the how. And so they are also in a waiting room waiting for that right opportunity, the perfect circumstances, the perfect context, the whatever, to get up and leave the expat waiting room. And for both groups, they keep going back and forth. So the group that generally doesn't know what they want, they might explore all the options, and on day 1, option A feels best, and on day 2, option B feels right, and on day 3, it's option C, and then they just repeat the circle again. And even for those who do know what they want, usually it's like a more general direction or the contours of something, but they go back and forth on the details or the starting date or when they're going to kickstart everything. And I have been in that expat waiting room myself for a long time too, even though I'm really good at making bold moves. Like I've moved countries so often, I've quit jobs, perhaps more than I should have done. I reinvented myself completely several times in my life. I have no problems letting things go, starting over, making these bold moves and big decisions. But this time I also found myself in the expat waiting room because more was at stake and because I didn't have the destination yet. So what a lot of people do, and myself included, is that we're in that expat waiting room, we're waiting for things to change. Like I said, we're waiting for clarity to know what is right for us. We're waiting for maybe not the perfect circumstances, but better circumstances, because there's always something that is like, now is not the right timing. We're waiting for an opportunity, we're waiting for something external. So in my case, I was unhappy here in The Hague, and I knew already for quite some time, okay, I'm ready to leave The Hague, I am. But I do need to have a destination or a plan, something to hold on to, something to start. Because I know what I'm giving up, and that's quite a lot. Like, I'm here with my 2 cats, I own an apartment, I've got my family here with nephews and nieces. Like, I'm pretty rooted here at the moment, and I don't mind giving that up for if there's only the chance of having something that makes me thrive or something that works better for me. But I do need the contours of that or the possibility. And so, of course, I had some options in mind, but they weren't possible with the visa situation, financial situation in some cases. So it's like, no, that's not going to happen. And also for a long time, I was just waiting for my future husband because I was like, I would love to live together with someone and build something with someone. So why would I sell my apartment now, go somewhere else, if maybe half a year later I'm going to start a relationship with someone, and then am I going to sell again? Am I going to buy something? No, it feels safer to just wait. And I did that for the first couple of years in The Hague until I realized that future husband wasn't coming yet. So there's a lot of waiting that we do. And sometimes we're very, very aware that we are in a sort of waiting room and that we're pausing our life, because that's what happens. And sometimes we also know what we do want, but it is just not possible, or we think it's not possible, right? And here's what I want to speak to today. Because even if you know what you want, in my case, I knew at some point, okay, I'm ready with The Hague. I'm ready to leave this all behind. But I still hadn't made that decision, the actual decision, because I didn't know. I was waiting for something next, right? A visa, an opportunity, whatever. Or just to fall in love with a city where I could actually move to. But until you actually make that decision, the amount of headspace that this pre-decision takes up is enormous. And this is also why so many expats come to me and decide to work with me, because the cost of staying where they are becomes too much to bear. Not in the external context, although they might perform less at work at some point. They might get into a burnout or a bored out, or they get grumpier with their relationships, or they stop proactively doing a lot of things, or I don't know, they change a few things in their external circumstances. But mostly the costs that they are no longer willing to pay are the internal ones, because they can't sleep at night. They lie awake in bed thinking about the 3 possible futures that they are actually already living mentally into, with their own life quietly running underneath it. They are less and less motivated to invest or to make something happen or to go at something with full energy and joy. They are experiencing less joy. They are avoiding certain conversations with their partner, family, friends, those conversations that are more about the future, because they're like, I just really don't know what to say because I've been saying the same thing and I'm stuck in the same loop. And why would I even bother diving into that again? Because it's only going to make me feel bad. So there are a lot of, and I haven't even mentioned all the thinking, the constant thinking, not only at night, but in little things as well. Am I going to sign up for that 6-month gym membership? Because, I'm not sure if I might be here. Am I going to start dating again if I want to leave? Does it make sense for me? So all these like small daily decisions that all of us make wherever we live, they come with a bigger load, because those smaller decisions are reflecting a bigger question within you. And then so you start to think about that again. And also what happens is that, if you know one step that you want to make for your career, but then you're realizing, if I do that, it brings up so many new questions about other areas of my life, because that part will impact the rest, or it just brings up questions of like, if I'm going to change career, do I even want to stay in this country? And so they get paralyzed because that one step is leading to too many possible scenarios, and they don't know what is right. And so they are trying to understand all the implications of all these different paths that they can take, and so that they have some control. And so there's a lot of thinking, a lot of processing, and it's just exhausting. I've been in it myself recently, so I know what it's like. When I made the decision to leave The Hague, the first decision was made, I'm going to leave. But the second part of, but what am I actually going to do next, wasn't made. It has been made now, and I will share that at the end of this episode. And so even in Mexico City, I found myself lying awake at night. And not only because of the low-key earthquake anxiety that I was having there, because of the earthquake that we experienced and the alarm that we had after that as well. It was also because I was like, what am I going to do? What if I'm going to sell my house, which at the time was my favorite option? I thought, I will have no anchors left. I don't have parents. I do have other family, thank God, really good family. My friends are in the Netherlands, yes, but also in like 20 other countries. I have no colleagues. The people that I engage with for my business, my clients are everywhere, but also my business besties are everywhere too. I have no relationship. And if I have no house, I'm really free. And there's a fine line between feeling free and feeling lost. So I was like, what am I going to do? This feels too scary. So I was lying awake at night too. And it costs a lot. It costs you sleep. It costs you headspace that you can spend on other things, perhaps more productive things. It costs you headspace that you could have spent not thinking, just enjoying life and being present. This is what a lot of expats who come to me say as well. Like, I'm just constantly living in the future and I want to enjoy where I am right now. I want to enjoy what I have right now. So there's a big internal price that you're paying in this runway to the decision. Even if you already know secretly or not so secretly what you want. If you haven't made the actual decision, and in a moment I'm going to share more about what a decision is. If you haven't made that decision, you are paying a price because you're in that expat waiting room. And now that I am on the other side, and I love sharing this because the people inside the co-pilot are also going through this at the moment. So it's so nice to be able to relate to that with them. Now that I'm on the other side and I have made my second decision of what is next, holy moly, it feels so good. I am so much more relaxed. Yes, my brain is more occupied now with like the sub decisions, things I need to decide, practical, financial, logistical details. But it's not the bigger restlessness that I was having, like what is next? The constantly going back and forth, the constantly knowing what I should do and then feeling guilty for not doing it, or feeling frustrated with myself for not doing it, or judging myself for not doing it, or feeling a bit desperate for not seeing what I could do and not having that opportunity until I realized I have free will. I can just decide. Now that I'm on the other side, I have more headspace. I'm sleeping better at night. I'm more joyful. And now the future doesn't feel like a shit, I don't know what's possible and I feel so stuck. It feels, wow, so much is possible. What am I going to choose? It's a whole different vibe. And as I said, even being back here feels different because I don't feel stuck here anymore, knowing that I'll need to stay here until I make a decision. No, I've made that decision and I know that this part is temporary. I'm closing up shop here. I'm closing this chapter. I'm finalizing my chapter here. And that comes with a whole different energy. That energy, I think I shared it before in an episode. Before I was like, where can I go to fix how I'm feeling? And I know you bring yourself wherever you go, like, moving abroad is not a solution for your internal issues or things that you experience. But in my case, it was really the environment that made me feel a certain way. So I was like, what band-aid can I find to make me feel better here? So, let me go on a workation for 3 months. So, I don't need to spend so much time in Hague. Now it really feels like, I'm closing a chapter. Like for a long time, I didn't even feel that was possible. I kind of felt this is now the status quo that I need to deal with. No, but I'm really ending this chapter here, this chapter of coming back in the pandemic, losing both my parents, losing my grandma, losing a friend. Also quitting my job and starting my coaching practice and experiencing wonderful things too. It hasn't been all bad, not at all. But it has been a heavy chapter. And now I'm realizing, I don't actually need to continue it and fix it and improve it. I can just really close this door and start something new. And it feels so good. It feels so, this energy of like, I can breathe and I can do whatever I want and I can choose what I want. And yeah, it just feels fantastic. And I want to share a few examples of the people inside my world who also recently experienced something similar, but perhaps on a smaller scale too. Because maybe you're wondering now, okay, that sounds great, Amanda, you're making a big decision and everything feels better. But I am not in a position to do that right now. Or my decision that I'm going back and forth with isn't that big. I don't want to overhaul my life completely. So I want to share a few examples of my clients who did something similar but made smaller decisions for some of them and experienced the same thing. So, for example, there is someone inside the co-pilot who was in a job in Europe. As always, I'm not going to share too many details because I do really respect the privacy of my clients. She was in a good job in Europe. And she was wondering, I want something else. I want a different job. I want a different location. I'm single and I'm not super happy being single. I just want something new. I've been doing this for almost 2 decades now. And so inside the co-pilot, she took the tools that that I gave her. And she took so much action, and she applied to like 7 super high level jobs in like 2 months. And in that process, she realized, actually, seeing all those other jobs and really investing, researching the locations and the aspects of the jobs and the financial stuff and whatever, and even what it could mean for my love life and my travel and my hobbies, actually where I am isn't so bad. And so in that process, or after those 2 months, she made a really conscious decision, and she shared that in the group, that she said, I'm not going to move. I got inside the co-pilot thinking I want to change. I just need to figure out what that change looks like. But I realized I'm actually really good where I am, and I've come to appreciate it so much more. And I'm seeing that my job, my stable income, my stable financial situation is allowing me to do things right now that I really enjoy about my life. And with that realization, she felt a lot calmer. With making that decision, I'm going to stay put for now, for the next year, maybe 2 years. I'm good here. She stopped feeding that anxiety or that restlessness of what's next? I need to figure it out. And she told herself, no, we are staying here. And so she feels a lot calmer. She is able to experience much more joy. And what I really love for her is that now she has been able to focus more on her relationships. Because that restlessness isn't, eating her up alive from the inside anymore, she's now able to turn that attention to the longer term things that also needed to be sorted out in her life. So I'm really, really happy for her. So that is one decision where actually she didn't change, but she made a decision of staying put. And not just, this is the key, this is not staying subconsciously, unintentionally in the expat waiting room. This is a full decision. I'm going to stay here, I'm going to invest here. So she's getting herself out of the expat waiting room, because the waiting room is just where you're waiting for things to turn better, or for waiting for things to change so that you can respond to it. She's not doing that. She's being proactive about her life and staying where she are, and feeding in and really improving intentionally where she is. So that's one example. Another example, this gave me goosebumps. This was an expat who actually gave me the term expat waiting room. So thank you again for that if you're listening. And she was in the expat waiting room for almost 2 years already, where she was pretty comfortable where she was at with her job, with her location, most of it. But she also knew, I don't want to stay here for another 5 years. She had her friends, everything, like things were going pretty well for her, but she knew I do need to figure out what I want. And she showed up for the calls. She did most of the tools on her own, and she actually didn't share that much about her process. And some people, are pretty independent. They do their thing. They go through the program, and then boom, they share something with me, and I'm like, whoa. So I had a session with her, a private session, and I gave her a questionnaire to fill out beforehand. I was reading her answers, and I read her answers, and I got like, wow. I got goosebumps, as I said, because she said, I have decided I'm moving to this country, and I'm going to change everything. And I've already started preparing for the residency progress. I have started to take language classes. I'm doing this and that to bring my pets. Wow. This was a country, or is a country, that wasn't fully on her radar beforehand. This isn't a country where she got a really concrete opportunity for her job, or because of a relationship, or because of something else. No. She does have some family living there, so that's her one little lead. But she has family in multiple countries. So this was a really, really proactive choice where she researched various options, and she put that against what she knew about herself and what she wanted, tools that I help you, or things that I help you with the tools inside the Copilot. And she realized, actually, it is very aligned with what I want. And then she got into action. And now she's making that decision, and she's working really hard on getting there, because there is some process to get that residency. I was just blown away when I saw her answers, and then when I spoke to her, because the energetic change that happened inside of her was undeniable. If you're listening to this, you know I'm speaking about you. I was so impressed. I deeply, deeply admire her and also the other co-pilots inside the group that are all making these really powerful moves, that the energetic change was undeniable. Whereas before, there was a bit more of an anxiety inside of her and questions and doubts and not being able to fully relax. And now she was like, I'm doing this. I know where I'm going. I know it's going to work. I know what I'm capable of. The energy was just like, wow, it was so powerful. And that's also what happens when you make a decision, because the noise falls away. When a decision fully lands and you start taking action on it, the noise calms down and you get so clear on where you are going. And so you can say no to the things that aren't aligned with it. You can say a full yes to the things that are aligned with it. And you can actually go for it. And it comes with so much confidence. And that's what I saw inside of her as well. So amazing. Another expat, we actually ran a 5-day challenge at the start of the co-pilot when I opened doors again last month. By the way, you can still join the co-pilot if you want to. Whenever you join, you get 4 months of live support inside the group and of me. So you can join whenever. But we did a 5-day challenge at the time, which you will also get access to when you join. You just won't be doing that with the group now, but I will repeat the challenge again later this year. And the 5-day challenge was all about momentum building, because what I realized with many people inside the co-pilot is that some of them already know what they want. Almost everyone knows what they should do to understand what they want or to get things into motion, but they are postponing it. And I was doing the same thing. Like I was postponing calling with a fiscal advisor. I was postponing fixing certain things in my house, you know. And so we did a 5-day challenge where I really challenged them to answer certain questions that gave them more clarity and to change that right away into concrete action. And the action of one of them, which was such an amazing one, she actually said, well, I've been thinking about asking for a sabbatical for so long. And thanks to this challenge, I just spoke with my manager about it. And I was very nervous because I felt guilty about asking so much time for myself without contributing to the company at the time and then expecting to return as if nothing happened. But I did it. And my manager responded so positively. And I feel so relieved now. And now I'm actually researching how I'm going to spend that sabbatical. Because here's the thing, she was thinking about taking that sabbatical for a long time, because her block was really about asking for it, getting the permission for the whole thing on its own. She didn't actually give herself the space to think about the details that much. And so now that it's a concrete thing in her calendar, now she has like, okay, now I can actually see what I want to do and where and how and whatever. So for her decision as well, this thing that she was like, I don't know the expression in English, but like that was on her plate for a long time that she just avoided and postponed, is now off her plate, and it's giving her so much space to actually joyfully research what she's going to do and get excited about her sabbatical and all the amazing countries that she's going to visit. So making that decision clears your plate for the things that are actually really exciting, because this is a super exciting thing in our life and for many of us. So these examples some of them are a bit smaller. It really shows you also with mine, and I'm sure you recognize this from earlier decisions you made in your life because you are courageous for moving abroad and you've done that before, that making that decision really does so much for you internally and eventually also externally. And a decision is not just knowing what you want, because a lot of us already know what we want, right? We know that direction is the right one for us, or we know that this is the action that we should be taking. I spoke about that already. A decision is really committing to that. So if I bring it back to my own example, it's not just I knew for a long time I wanted to leave The Hague, but the actual decision was me committing to it, and not just to myself, because I can negotiate very well with myself. No, I committed to it publicly on this podcast. This really helps me, this podcast, to make bigger moves in my life. I committed to it to friends. I committed to it to family, even to clients. Like I'm no longer available for in-person sessions in The Hague. And so it requires commitment, but it also requires a first step, in my opinion. Because you can say for a long time, oh yes, I want to leave The Hague. Well, wanting is still a desire. That's not really committing to it. If you say, I have decided to leave The Hague in this time frame, you also have to take a first step to actually do it. So in my case, the first steps were really accepting for myself that I'm leaving this apartment. So that means sorting out all my stuff and what I don't want to put in storage. Like I really need to declutter if I want to move, if I'm going to move. It means I actually scheduled a call with the fiscal advisor, the thing that I've been postponing for a long time, because leaving this place, there are some financial implications. I was doing actually the 5-day challenge with my people inside the Copilot together with them, which is really good. So it also helped me to take action and get into momentum. So a decision is not just knowing what you want, because so many of you already want that, but you are so good with your brain that you will negotiate with yourself. So it requires more than just knowing what you want. It requires the commitment and the first step, those two combined in my case, or in my opinion. So once you make that decision with the commitment and the first step, you will see how much will shift for you. And I just asked some people inside the Copilot, like, hey, how are you feeling now after the challenge or after this decision? And they all say, I just feel so much calmer now that this thing has been ticked off, or I don't need to continue, wonder, doubt, ask myself about it all the time. I just feel so much lighter and relaxed and more present because I can actually enjoy where I am. And some said, well, I still don't know exactly what I'm going to do, because we only started 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago almost, yeah. But I already feel so much calmer about it now, about the process, and I feel so much more confident, and I can really trust that things will fall into place for me. That is already a huge shift, and that is just by getting into action or by telling yourself, I'm going to make a decision very soon about this. So for anyone who is thinking about making a decision, wanting to start a new chapter, wanting to change things, knowing that where you are right now isn't fully right for you, but you've been postponing it, waiting for the right circumstances, for the love of God, please just make a decision. And in my case, I made the first part of the decision by leaving The Hague without knowing what the second part of where I was going to go to next. I didn't know that, so that's what kept me trapped for a long time. But I thought, no, let me just make the first decision already. And because I made that decision before I went on my workation wasn't the time where I had all the headspace to think about, oh, what is next for me? What should I do? Should I leave? Should I stay? No, I had already decided I am going to leave. So now I'm going to gather data on what is right for me, what is next for me. It became a whole different energy on that workation. So before I would think, okay, I need to give myself enough space to think about this. And now I'm like, would I like to live in Mexico City? Because I need to find a new place. So yeah, please just get into action, make the commitment and make that decision, even if it's just one part of the bigger question of that is going on for you. All right. And now on to my decision. So I decided to leave The Hague, and I thought, I'd love to live in the US at some point in my life. Maybe not right now, but the visa really isn't an option for me now. I also thought about London because I spent some time there late last year and I really enjoyed it again. But also visa, financial stuff, not really the option for me right now. Europe doesn't really feel attractive. I was like, this is really not my vibe. Asia, same thing. I love Asia, but no, not for me now. I'm a very intuitive person, so my intuition is saying no. Latin America, yeah, but I've been there so much already, and there are some things that I'm just like, I'm in a different phase of my life now. I'm not really sure if that's what I want. Because I spent, I think, almost 6 years already in Latin America, in different places and countries. I know the continent very well. I studied Latin American politics. I was a diplomat in Brazil. I was a political risk analyst covering Latin America. Like, I have so many friends there. I go there every year if I'm not already living there, but it's It's very, very familiar territory for me. So I was like, I really don't know what I want. And this is what kept me trapped for so long, right? Like, I need to have something concrete before I leave The Hague. And now I have made my decision. And what is interesting is how this decision came to me. Because for the last couple of years, maybe my whole life, but just I've become more aware of it in the last couple of years, how decisions come to me is like, it's just like all of a sudden it's an intuitive knowing that just pops up. Like, maybe this feels good. Maybe this is right. But it kind of feels underwater. It kind of feels like I can't really see it clearly. You know, when you put something underwater, it looks a bit blurry. And then I always keep thinking, well, I need to be in a more quiet time or have more headspace so then I can really fully see it and see if this is right for me. But I never really get there. And at some point I just realized, well, this feels right. And I'm just going to go for it because I live by the 80% rule. If you've been to my masterclass or inside the Copilot, you know what I mean. I don't strive for 100% knowing this is what I want to do. 80% is good enough. And so when I feel that 80%, I'm going to go for it. And also what my friend Hiske told me, I don't know, a couple months ago. She is a human design expert. She is one of my business besties, and we do the same business program, and we've become really, really close friends. And she really gives me the tools to help me access my own power, which is amazing. It's so wonderful to have her on speed dial. And she's this human design expert, and I am a projector with splenic authority. Well, I knew this about myself, but I had no idea really what it meant. And she told me, and she also told the co-pilots in a masterclass that is also inside the portal when you join, that your authority really helps you to decide better. So in my case, with my splenic authority, how I make the best decisions is because when I listen to that intuitive knowing, it's this quiet whisper, this intuitive knowing that just comes up and I just know. There's nothing that can tell me if this is the right decision or not. For people with other authorities, for example, sacral, they need to feel a full body yes to know this is the right decision. And so in my case, I just know. And a couple months ago, when I paused my one-on-one coaching, this wasn't a logical decision. It was like I was on my bike and all of a sudden, I know it's going to sound a bit schizophrenic, but I heard this voice that says, I need to pause my one-on-one coaching. And I just decided to listen to it. And it was my best decision ever because it gave me a lot of space and time that I really, really needed for personal things in my life. And it also gave me my second biggest revenue month in my entire coaching practice of almost 4 years or 4 years now. You know, these intuitive downloads, they work well for me. And I stopped negotiating. I stopped thinking, but I need to know if this is right. I need to be able to justify it. I need to be able to explain it. No, I have also shown myself in the 20 years somewhat that I've made my own independent choices, that whenever I listen to my intuitive voice, I really made the right decisions. When I was 19 or 18 actually, or 19, I'm not quite sure. Well, anyway, I made the decision to quit my law studies, and I was doing this highly selective thing, so it wasn't an easy decision to let that go, to quit my studies and to travel South America for a year. I stayed away a year and a half, and a lot of people asked me, why South America? And I couldn't explain. It was just like, I know I had to be there. And a lot of people at that time decided, no, I first want to finish my bachelor's degree and then I'll have my sabbatical. And for me, it was like, no, I need to go now. And it was the best decision because it led me to really wonderful friends that I still have to this day. It led me eventually to studying Latin American studies as a minor, to then Latin American politics as a master's degree, to then getting my political risk analyst job in London, covering Latin America, and to then land my diplomacy career in the Netherlands and Brazil. So that is just the professional part, but I also got so much more out of that because when I was 20, I was traveling in Bolivia by myself as a young blonde woman, and there was a road blockade and I was stuck in a bus, and you know, I had to take care of myself in so many ways in another language that led me to who I am today. And so I've made many intuitive decisions, leaving London, quitting my job there, leaving my diplomacy career at that time, like at a specific time. Like I made many intuitive decisions that really worked out well for me. I don't regret any of my decisions. Perhaps the only one that I regret is staying here in The Hague for longer and buying this house. Not something I fully regret, but So anyway, my point is, I know that when I listen to my intuition, I make the right decisions for me. And I have a long history with proof that it works out well for me. And so I don't need to question it every time if I'm making the right choice, if I listen to my intuition. I have shown myself I can already do that. So for any one of you for whom this resonates, look at what you've already done and how you made your decisions and when it worked out the best way for you, so you have data on what works for you going forward. So stop negotiating with yourself when you tell yourself, I just need to sleep on it. I need to be able to explain it. I need people to support me in this. I need to justify this. No, how you make your decisions, and if it's through justification and having that support, great, good for you. But see what works for you and use that to see, this is how I'm going to make my next decision. So, long story short, I at some point felt it coming up, this intuitive knowing, which it was in very small ways, like a little bit over time, over a couple of weeks, where I decided now, and it still feels not 100% certain. It still feels 80%, and I'm good with that. I'm going to move to Mexico City. Maybe not a big surprise for most of you, but this is what I have decided. I am probably going after summer, although I might spend some time there already beforehand. I'm not quite, that depends on a few other personal factors. But I think the actual bigger move, so to say, will happen after summer, because I really enjoy summer in The Hague usually. And I just feel so good making that decision. And when I was thinking, Amanda, is this the right decision for you? The data that I used to make this decision was, every day, almost every day, because there were a few days that I was a bit ill and stuff. But apart from that, every day, I felt just so good in Mexico City. I just felt at the right place. I was meeting the right people. I was in the right climate. I just felt really good. And if I compare that to how I feel here in The Hague, it's a very stark contrast. And so this is what tells me, hey, Mexico City is actually a really good city for me. And what I really loved was that, some of the noise kept me up at night, but I also really loved hearing that I was in a bigger city surrounded by people with things going on. I've shared this before. I'm in my ambition era, hustle era. I've had my soft girl era when both of my parents died, and I really had to go inward and, make so much space for myself and take things slow. And now I'm just like, I don't want to settle into something quiet and soft. I'm ready for the action again. And this is why I've been very attracted to bigger cities in my search of where I want to go to, including London. And I felt that Mexico City has the right combination for me. So where I was staying in an Airbnb was such a nice neighborhood. It's the expat gringo neighborhood, Condesa. I also like the neighborhoods around it. I really had a really nice routine there. I walked everywhere, and a lot of people told me, oh, why don't you get a bike? Because it's easier. I'm like, no, I do a lot of biking in the Netherlands. I love walking here in a bigger city. There's so much going on. Every time I thought of going for a coffee or a drink or food, there were so many options to choose from. I went to a journal club. Every Thursday they got together to journal together. I wanted to go to a writing club, which was at the same time on Thursdays. I couldn't make it because at some point I got too busy. But I would love to write a book. I have quite some topics already. And so if I want to write a book at some point, I do need to get into the habit of writing. There are more clubs, like I've heard people going to philosophy clubs or debating clubs or political stuff. There's just so much going on. There's so many languages that you hear on the street. And I really loved being in the city vibes again. And I love that, I'm a single girl. I work for myself. I work remote most of the time. So I love being in an environment where I feel, hey, I'm plugged in. Whereas here in the Netherlands, I'm sure all the Dutch people or expats in the Netherlands recognize this. it is all, everyone is in their own little bubble, especially when they settle down with kids. And I want to be plugged in because I'm in that era of my life right now. And so the bigger city really suits me. Will I stay forever in a big city? Hell no, because I'm also a nature girl. But right now I'm honoring the big city part of me. So I'm going to move to Mexico City. The exact how and when and how long, and I am still defining that a little bit. I have my preferences, but there are things that need to be sorted out. But that is the plan. And does this feel like my forever destination? No, it doesn't. Am I okay with that? 100%. Because the pain of staying is so much bigger than the pain of leaving, starting over somewhere new, and perhaps in a couple of years again. I'm okay with that. I'm super okay. Actually, I'm really, really excited to be starting over in Mexico City again, because I met such wonderful people. So this is my plan. This is what I'm going to do. So I'm really here in The Hague now to close this chapter. And what I'm going to do in the next couple of weeks and months is sorting out all my stuff, which is not easy because, as I said, both my parents died. So when my dad died, my parents were already divorced. We had to sort out all of his stuff. So I do in my storage have quite some personal belongings of him and of my childhood. You know, these are things that most people my age don't have to go through yet. Good for them. But as someone who has lost her parents and who is now also moving again, you are faced with these questions already back then when he died, like, do I want to keep this or not? And now I'm going to face it again. So I know there is some emotional work to be done. I really need to be honest with myself. Is this something for other things in my house? Is this something that I want to keep making space for, or is it time to let it go? And honestly, for some things, now that I know that I'm leaving, I was just going through my storage and I found 7 different belts, and I never really wear a belt. Somehow I had been keeping them for years and years. And I was like, why do I keep them if I'm not a person who wears belts? And the fact that I'm going to leave now really gives me this permission of just donate it, throw it away, whatever. So I'm going to do that with all of my stuff, going through all of that. Something else I really want to do is, now that I'm still here and have my network here, I really want to see everyone as much as I can and really want to enjoy that I still have a home here. So I'm thinking of organizing a few things at my place. So these are some things I'm going to be busy with, and it's going to be super busy because I'm also flying to the US next month. I have my VIP weekend. I have my work. I have some other business ideas or coaching practice ideas that I want to explore and start. So get on my airmail list, by the way, because there are some good things coming. So it's going to be a busy time, but I'm just so excited because I'm finalizing this chapter and I'm going to start something new, and it feels so damn good. So I'm so sorry. This was another longer episode. I always try to keep it short, but somehow I'm just not able to. I hope you bear with me. But I just really wanted to show you in this episode, this is what it feels like when you actually make that decision. When you make the commitment and you take the first step. There is so much relief. There is so much joy. There is so much clarity. There's so much more power and confidence. And also this energy of, I'm starting something new and I get to decide. So, Mexico City, here I come. If you're there, by the way, send me a message. I would love to connect. For now, I wish you a beautiful day wherever you are, and I will see you for the next episode, which will be episode 100, and I'm planning to do something special. So stay tuned. Bye-bye.